Thank you so much, Sri M. It's an honor and a blessing to be here with you today.
Thank you very much too. Honor to be here with you.
Thank you so much. We have Aditya and Tanvi,
Namaste, sir.
our
Namaste.
young team here, all very,
Mhm.
very excited to meet you.
How nice.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Welcome, welcome. So, this is supposed to be an interaction. So,
It is,
Yes.
it is, it is.
can I chant something before we start?
Yes.
Just for half a minute?
Yes,
Right.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditama Vidvishavahai Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yes, we're ready for a dialogue.
Thank you so much. So we'll just begin from here. Namaste, everyone. I'm Ira Trivedi, and welcome to Get Better India. Today, I am honored and blessed to have with me Sri M, one of the greatest yogis of our time, to share his learnings and to teach all of us how we can individually face the pandemic and use the ancient art, science, and blessing of yoga to help us in our lives. Welcome, Sri M, to our program, and thank you so much for taking out the time to do this. We're hoping that through spiritual stalwarts such as yourselves, we can emphasize to people how important it is, especially on this particular day, International Day of Yoga, to begin a practice of yoga in their lives. There is no better time than now to start.
Earlier the better. If we have not practiced yoga till now, then maybe it's time to start right now. I completely agree with you that we have a science with us which has come from ancient times. Uh, and anyone who has practiced yoga, yourself for instance, I saw a small notification here about all your activities, pretty impressive. But apart from that, the yoga is the science of yoga. I call it the science of, some people say art of yoga, but I think it's the science of yoga. Um, Look at me, I am 72 years old physically, yes. Uh, I started the practice of yoga at the age of 10. I'm also talking about physical yoga, not only the spiritual aspect. As you know,
With Sharmaji.
yeah, right. So you, you know that. So I started at the age of 10 and I have not missed my practice till now, unless I'm traveling and that time I'm not able to do it or something like that, but definitely not. And that is, I am proof myself, I am living proof that yoga has a certain effect on the body and the mind, and of course further up to the spiritual practices. So now we are passing through a tough phase. Actually, we are kind of overcoming it, and very soon things will open up. This is my hope. But there was a terrible time, the first wave and the second wave, and people were passing through difficult times. So many people reached out to me. What do we do here, stuck inside in a lockdown? So I had to explain to them that now this lockdown is important for us because of the pandemic, because of the virus. However, even if there is no pandemic, it's a good idea sometimes to have a lockdown, not for the general public, but for yourself. I also pointed out to many people that in ancient times, many of the great teachers and yogis deliberately and voluntarily locked down themselves in small rooms, little kutirs, and didn't want to meet anybody. It was deliberate, voluntary, not involuntary, it was voluntary. So, what did they do during that time? This is the, this is the time when we can't go out, when we can't meet people, we can't party. Nowadays, for everything, it's a party. Somebody's birthday, it's a party. So, what do I do? Open the champagne bottle. So, all this is not possible. Okay, fine. Now, I think if there's a birthday or a marriage, it's a good thing to give a small plant so that they can plant it somewhere. That's a better thing to do than party. what did they do and what do you do when you're alone, when you can't go out, when you're isolated? I'd like to use the word solitude instead of isolation. Solitude is a better word because in solitude you can do a lot of things which you didn't have time for before. You can read important texts, you can meditate, you can practice, you can do 100 things which you couldn't do before. See, so it's an important phase. Turn it into a positive thing, is what I mean to say. Turn it into a positive thing. Like you said, yoga love to be in solitude. If you love to be in solitude, it's like the little moth that builds a cocoon, sits inside for some days. How does the moth come from? It comes from a little caterpillar which is on the ground walking in this mud, and then it builds this cocoon and then matures. And when the cocoon breaks, what happens? It becomes a butterfly with multicolored wings flying up in the sky above the flowers. So use the time. Instead of saying, I'm bored, I'm fed up, use it creatively so that you grow wings like a butterfly. One day or the other, the lockdown is going to be over. Now you are prepared to fly higher up. And yogic practices, listening to music, all these are important things which you can do at this time. Not only can you do, I think you should teach others to do. I think, yeah.
I just want to bring in one question here about meditation.
Yes.
And this is after reading your book on meditation, which I feel everyone should read. So if you haven't gone and read Sri M's book on meditation, please do go get this book. And there's been a lot of beautiful questions answered in the book. And also in this time, there's been a lot of conversations on mental health. A lot of
Yes.
people are going through anger, depression, anxiety, and they're looking at meditation as a tool. So
Absolutely.
many times, even to me, they say, "Oh, can we start meditating? Can we just start meditating?" And oftentimes, I'll say, "I'm not so sure if you're ready for meditation or not." So I'd
Yep,
love
right.
to know from you. I'd love to learn from you. Um, I would love to know some tips for people who want to meditate. Would love for you to explain Vedantic meditation, how you've explained it, and also how the breath links to meditation. These are
Right.
the three things that I would love for you to talk about because you're a master of so many things, but these have been so beautifully explained in your book, and I think it's very, very valuable for people to know because even if people want to start meditation, they're often so confused. There's so many apps, there's so many YouTube channels, they don't know what to do. There's, so many resources, and it's almost too confusing.
Right. So let me start with, I'll try and be brief, um, the word meditation. Now, in the ancient texts, there is no such word called meditation. I mean, it's an English word, of course, but by the word meditation, which we use in the English language, what we mean are the three things described in the Yoga Sutras, which is dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. All these three are included in meditation. When we say meditation, that's what we mean. Now, why do people want to meditate? First, this is an important question. There are different kinds of people who want to take up meditation of different kinds. One is, I'm so fed up, I'm kind of restless, I have always, my mind is wandering, so I need to meditate and stabilize myself. Yeah, this is one. Quite legitimate, of course. The second are those people who want to link the dharana, dhyana, and samadhi of yoga and make the practice of yoga complete from physical to the mind and then on to the spiritual. Second variety of people. Then there is the third, which is purely spiritual. The Vedantins are not interested in anything else except finding the truth, so they want to meditate. So, because of this, there are different kinds of meditation. Now, there are people who are interested in visualization and symbols, and they go into the what we call the yoga tantras, the tantra connected to yoga, right? So there are different kinds, but I would say the most important thing in whichever be the kind of meditation you want to do, the most important factor is that the mind has to become quiet. Base. Without the mind being quiet, there is no meditation. So from there you can change to whatever you are thinking about. But this is important. That is the runway. It is the tarmac from where you can take off. Right. So to make the mind calm, to start with, because I know, like you said, many people we want to meditate, but I also sometimes wonder how to get this person to meditate. So the first step, I think a very easy step would be what we call, it's also very popular now in the art of in the science of vipassana, for instance, which means watching. Now it's not easy to watch. The mind is something which always likes to be occupied. It's like nature abhors a vacuum. You keep a vacuum and air tries to rush in. In the same way, you try to make the mind calm, immediately thoughts begin to rush it. It's part of Prakriti. So it happens. So one can't say to meditate, free your mind from all, it's not possible. Thoughts will certainly come. We say from the yogic point of view, instead of that, can you turn your thoughts to something that is internal, so that for some time the thoughts are away from the external? And what is the internal thing that we have the best? Our breath. Everybody breathes. It's so important. Water, you can live without water for some time. Food, you can live without food. Breath, you can't live for half a minute without breathing. So it's so important, but we neglect it. We don't give any attention to it. So therefore, I think to bring about a calm mind, which is the platform from which one can go to the higher levels of meditation, one way is to occupy the mind internally in your breath. I mean, occupied into your breath or integrated with your breath. So it's very simple. You must be know. I'm just saying very simple, which is turn your attention to the breath. Take inhale. As you inhale, watch your breath as you're inhaling. And as you watch your breath, listen to the sound of the breath as you inhale. You don't even have to use a mantra. Normally in Kriya Yoga, we use hum, saw. Inhale, hum, and exhale, saw. But you don't even have to do that. If you listen carefully to the sound of the breath, that becomes a mantra by itself. And if you want, you can hold for a count of 4 or 5, or you don't even have to hold it. You can immediately exhale and give complete attention to the exhalation and hear the sound of the breath coming out. When this is done for about 5 to 10 minutes, the proof of the pudding is in the eating it. You will realize that many thoughts which used to disturb you are out because you are occupied, integrated with your breath. If this continues for some time, then one can shift to the deeper levels of meditation from there. This is essential. When Patanjali says yogas chitta vritti nirodha, when yoga he defines as getting rid of all the distractions of the mind stuff. Vrittis, I like to define them as distractions, opposing views, tension, all this is. One of the first steps is to watch your breath and free yourself from outer involvement so that you are involved inside. And as you move along with your breath, mind calms down, the prana becomes balanced, the ida and the pingala become balanced, and then you are set for the next step. So when people really want to start at the beginning, I would suggest that for a month or two they just do this.
Just breathe.
Just breathe.
Breathe.
Just breathe.
Just
But
focus on
breathe,
your breath
yeah, breathe with
consciously.
intention, and attention on the breath. Complete attention. So slowly you will see that your mind becomes calm, your attention span increases, your concentration improves, various things happen. And if I may say, it also helps to rejuvenate your body and the cells, because now you are not allowing the prana to get wasted.
focusing. You know, as Sri M said, you know, message for everyone who's watching this program, begin with breathing. You know, if you are curious about meditation, the first step is just to sit down and take long breaths with intention, long conscious breaths with intention. And even that by itself is a powerful process. Now, Shri M, I want to ask you a question here. A lot of people have faced losses. I would say that almost every one of us knows someone who has passed away in the second wave. Everyone has suffered losses, and often these losses make you bitter. You know, they make you negative. They make you think, why has this world done this to me? What did I ever do to deserve this? And that makes people corrupt, you know? Just that thought that, why did this happen to me? And in your book, you defined, there was a very beautiful story that I remember reading on Krishna and Narada, how they go into two different houses and, you know, how loss can be used as a way of reaching higher altars. And so I was just wondering maybe that story or some other story for you, you know, just giving a message out there for everyone who is suffering from loss. How do we counter that?
First, let me tell you, to lose someone who is dear and near, the wound doesn't heal so easily. Let's understand this first. That's a lovely Padma said. So let's understand that, okay? That it's not so easy to wound this heal. Only time can heal it. Point one. Keep this in mind. When somebody else whom you don't know dies, it's not so affected by it. But when it happens to us, it's not so easy. Well, for us who have somehow, I don't know, through work or good luck or blessings of the teacher or whoever, whatever, we have come to the understanding that when the body dies, nothing dies. The self doesn't die, the inner being doesn't die. Now, when a person is in an emergency situation and somebody, you can't go and talk all this to them. This philosophy doesn't work. It doesn't enter there in grief. So, the only way one can help them out is to get them to occupied in something which is not to do with these things. I mean, do good things. The whole concept of seva, people think seva is to help others, it also helps yourself. How? Because when you help somebody, you've forgotten your troubles. You may be in trouble, but you want to help the other guy that side, your neighbor or whoever is around, then your grief becomes a very small part of this whole thing. Everybody is in grief. So, seva is one thing, how to help others who are still alive and not allow them to suffer as we did when this happened to us. This is one way of doing it. This is also yoga, it's karma yoga. Seva is karma yoga, one. And the second, even though you may not have experience and you may or may not believe this, at least suspend your judgment when somebody says there is some element in us that never dies. At least that much. Perhaps there is something like that. So maybe the body is gone, but the person is still somewhere doing something. Two. And the third, of course, is to understand that death is something that happens to everybody. Nobody can escape it. The day we are born, we know that it's going to end at some point. Yes. So, which is not a terrible thing. Imagine living forever for 200 years. It's terrible. It's boring. You come, you go, it's happened. Again, I must say that it's not so easy when something happens to our own relatives. It's not easy to heal the wound, but these are the things that can be taught. Now, I want to tell you a little story. I've been saying this for some time since the pandemic, but it's an interesting one about how a lady went to the Buddha when her son died, little boy, only son, and said, "Can you please bring him back to life?" And the great enlightened Buddha said, "Go and look around in your locality, find a house where nobody has ever died, and bring me a mustard seed." The poor lady looked, somebody has died at some point or the other. There's no house where nobody has ever died. So she came back and said, "I can't find this mustard seed anywhere." He said, "So you see this? When you said my son died, at this point thousands of sons have died in thousands of houses. You don't see it because they are not near you. So that weight of her grief was lifted because she said, I'm just part of this whole universe. Life and death are part of this struggle for existence. And then she bowed down to the Buddha and said, I understand, and went back. There are people who may not have understood. I understand that also. But she did. So these are some of the thoughts that can go through our minds. So compassion is very important. Kindness is very important. When I have a loss, I must try to see that the other person who has the same or similar loss is not suffering. So do something about it. This is a selfless act, but it's actually a purifying of the mind in one way, so that you become more than human. You know, I look after some people say, oh, I don't want to do any Vedanta, yoga, nothing. I do my duty, I look after my child and I'm fine. I always tell them, the monkeys also do that, the dogs also do that, look after their own child. If I look after my neighbor's child, then I'm different. Then I'm growing, I'm becoming a human being, not just an animal. Because it is a built-in instinct to look after your child. Nothing very special about that. Of course, there are some who don't do that, which is worse. But you know what I mean. So all these thoughts, if they can be discussed with, music plays a great part. Music heals. So
Any particular kind of music? Sorry to interrupt you. Any particular kind of music?
yes, I would say not music that makes you jump around too much, but music that calms you down. I prefer classical music, Indian classical music, both Hindustani and Carnatic, but I also love Western classical music. Beethoven, Mozart, there are many. You see, music has no language. You don't need a language for music. Sometimes, can you imagine a milkmaid walking past Vrindavan? Someone is sitting on the hill playing the flute, and the moon is out. There is no word, there is no conversation, just that. And she puts all the milk and everything down and rushes up. Where is this beautiful music coming from? Well, I'm trying to describe in simple words the Bhagavad. So, music. Music can heal, especially calming music. The sound of music, not the movie, the sound of music from sa, re, ga, ma, pa, da, ni, sa. This is not the way to say that. I'm just saying the different tones, they have effect on the different centers, psychic centers of our system called the chakras. So, singing, listening to music, all this play a part in bringing about healing. So, all this can be encouraged in some way. Of course, the practice of yoga, 100%. Even if you are sad or if you are unhappy and something has happened, don't miss your yoga in the morning or evening, whenever you do it.
Or you're
Even if it,
tired, something comes around, don't
the
miss it.
next, don't miss it. Yeah, because it's an excuse.
Yeah, excuse.
It is an excuse. Don't miss it. Practice for at least 15 minutes. Do Surya Namaskara. Right?
And now
So,
it's so simple. It's all come online. It's so, so simple to find
very simple.
teachers, to find everything on the internet, even.
Only difficulty is, as you said, I'm sorry, people are now confused because YouTube has yeah, so one has to be a little bit careful with, yeah.
That also. Shyam, can I ask you, for your parting message, if you would like to say something to everyone watching this program now, hopefully at the end of the second wave, what would that message be on this International Day of Yoga, a very special day, the summer solstice, from an energetic perspective, from many perspectives, not just that the United Nations has declared it. So, what would your message be today for everyone watching this program?
I would say that the International Yoga Days just started some years back. The Prime Minister said, let's have an international, it's a great thing, of course. What I would say is, First, because the roots of yoga come from this country, have some respect for this country. Please, I mean, yoga is practiced in Hollywood. Okay, good, that's fine. But where did it come from? Here. So have some respect for this earth which has given us this wonderful science. One. Second, make yoga a daily practice in your life, because yoga has nothing to do with organized religion. You can be either religious or you can be non-religious, you can still practice yoga. And what are the advantages? The message I want to give is it helps to keep a healthy body, a healthy mind, and for those who aspire, go deeper into the spiritual, for those who aspire. For the rest, at least healthy body and healthy mind, which is so much necessary, especially in this new phase that is coming after the pandemic. I have great hope. I know, we all know that sometime the Spanish flu in 1918 took 30 million lives. Everybody bounced back. Nobody remembers the Spanish flu. Same will happen to this COVID-19. Nobody will remember after. We will all bounce back. We're coming to that. But we have to be patient and careful. I agree. So the message is a new dawn. Think of it as a new dawn opening up. Get ready, prepare yourself to get in there. And I am 100% sure that life will be different now. People will be more kind, people will be more careful, more hygienic. So we are going to actually from this depression come into a high, into a new wave. So let's get prepared for that and ready for that and sink all the past that has happened to us in the mind. We need to move forward. आगे बढ़े. As they say, होंगे कामयाब.
Thank
This
you.
is
Thank
my
you,
message.
Shriyam. That's a
And
beautiful message.
may I add one more? That
Of course.
young people like you play a very important role in this. Because when I, with my grey hair, talk that people, okay, but here there's a young person involved who is doing this. So do more, please. The young are the hope of the future. So thank you, and thank you,
Thank you, Shriyam. Your message is so important, and your books are so pertinent and so beautifully written. So I
thank you,
really, really appreciated those.
thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Shriyam. Thank you for your time. It's an honor and a blessing. Thank you. Om Guru Bhyo Namah.
Om Sri Guru Babaji.